Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Kris Thorne, and I'm here with Fee Hills. Welcome back to Fit to Change, designing a future-ready workforce for the AI era. I'd just like to welcome you back to our series of weekly LinkedIn Lives here. Now, last week, we were speaking about the experience economy and how everything that's happening right now in our workplaces, it's really running parallel to what people are experiencing outside the workplace. People expect a great experience now at work. And if you want to retain them, we need to be thinking about how we can do that. And two of the key experiences that people have in your workplace that can really make a massive difference on whether you engage people or retain them or really get the best out of them is going through organizational change and opportunities to learn and develop, because people want that progression. They want to develop. And so really what we want to know is, how can we create better experiences for people as they're going through organizational change and as they're going through learning experiences in your organization? We need to align those learning experiences with the experience economy, really, if you want to attract and retain your talent. And the thing is that, I mean, my mission really is all about helping people to create those better experiences as we go through change, to be what we call fit for change. Now, fit for change is about helping people to develop the mindset and the resilience and skills to not only navigate change in the short term, but also to be future fit, if you like, to be able to manage whatever change throws at them as they go along. And because the key thing is, if we want people to be able to navigate in this AI exponentially changing world, we need to change culture. And to change culture, we need to change mindset and behavior, because ultimately that is what creates culture. Now, giving someone a great experience, it's all about taking them on the journey, isn't it? It's about how we knit together those individual experiences to create a pathway or a journey. And one of the most important journeys that we need to take people on right now in our organizations is the journey to create psychological safety. Why? Well, I mean, because it lies at the heart of everything that we need to do and want to do in order to create great cultures. Psychological safety, as we know, it's about people feeling safe to take risks, to test the status quo, to make mistakes, to get feedback. It's one of the characteristics of a high-performing team, as identified by the Google Aristotle project. So it was a natural starting point for us at MindNudger AI to think about, well, what are some of those foundational elements that we need to have in place if we want people to create both a learning culture and to create a great experience of change. But the thing is, with any good journey, we need to know the destination. Alice in Wonderland. You might be familiar with Alice going on that journey, getting lost, looking around, spying the Cheshire Cat and looking up and saying, "Would you tell me, please, which way do I need to go from here?" And the wise Cheshire Cat looks down and says, "Well, that depends a good deal on where you want to go." And Alice saying, well, I don't much care where. And the cat says, "Well, then any which way will do." But actually, that's not true, is it? We need to know where we're going. We need to know how we're getting there. Because if we don't take people on that journey and they don't have a sense of trust that we're going to lead them to the destination, they're not going to stick around to see the end of it. The challenge here is that there needs to be a fundamental shift, especially with something like psychological safety, in how we approach those journeys and those experiences, because training, as we know, learning is not a one-off event. It's an iterative process. It needs to be embedded and executed over a period of time and at a different level, both conscious and unconscious. And the problem is that when it comes to psychological safety, we're not really giving people clear pathways, especially our leaders, who are the ones that are taking people on that journey. It's all a bit chaotic, a bit haphazard. Some leaders are really proficient. They build great cultures of psychological safety, and those organizations are doing well. But for others, it's a bit chaotic. They don't really understand it. They don't really quite know how to do it. They're beset by pressures from all sides. And so we need a way of aligning things and making this destination clear for everyone. And that is really what Mind Nudger AI is all about, is helping to align the destination. And we create journeys where those concepts, they lay the pathway for people to make change happen, to take them on that journey so that we can scale. Because that is the other challenge, is that we need to be able to scale psych safety across the organization. Wouldn't you agree, Fee?
Totally. The bit I liked there, I'm sure any audience, recording or otherwise, if it's on the recording, is going to agree.
Yeah,
and the underestimated bit. No, just the way you said, a bit chaotic.
Well,
I'm feeling the bit. Yeah.
You're right. It's a bit of an understatement, isn't it? And that is why we need psychological safety. We needed to calm everything down, because people are feeling really overwhelmed right now with all the chaos and change, and every which way you turn, something is different almost every other day. And we need a way for people to really have a few anchors, really. A bit of an anchor, a great anchor is trust. When we trust the people that we're with, we trust the people that we're working with, that we're on this, we're in it together. That's a massive anchor in the face of uncertainty. It gives us hope that we can make that journey. So the thing is, how do we actually go about doing this? This is really what we all want to know, isn't it? How do we actually create psychological safety and do it at scale? Well, we're going to be looking at something today about how we do that, in terms of how does this actually break down at an individual level. And at Mind Nudger AI, we've created something called the Psychological Safety AI Navigator. And we're going to break that down for you in a moment in terms of what does that actually look like? What does that mean? How do we approach this challenge of helping people to shift these mindsets and do it at scale? Because everyone's got a different map, if you like, a different picture of the world. But the challenge there is that we need to individualize that journey for people, so that we can meet people where they are and take them on that journey. Wouldn't you agree, Fee?
Absolutely. So that's it's really where we're going to start today, like you say, is help you understand how we've built the AI model and how the AI model works to, if you like, scale, especially scale, the ability to align psychological safety and foster that consistently around the organization. So we may have one team where the leader is really, really good at fostering psych safety. They're an absolute natural, or they've learned it, whatever. And then we've got so many departments or divisions or teams where it's absolutely not working. And the problem with inconsistency is it affects the culture. So having one team here and there who are sort of getting it right, one, it's not measurable. So we can't change, we can't manage, if you like, and change what is not measurable. But two, it's not igniting and making people feel safe enough to speak up and trust enough to learn. And every environment we require in this day and age, first and foremost, requires psychological safety at its foundation. And that is why Kris was saying that we started at that point. Of course, it's a logical place in workplaces to start. So we want to talk you through this. First of all, the concept pyramid, tell you how we move from current proficiency, meaning wherever we are on that proficiency level as a leader, to obviously the goal, which is, make it a master proficiency at that level. So that is through, like Kris said, a mind nudging journey. But I want to start with the sort of assessment and AI side, which looks at the way the mind works with any subject is through concepts. So if you think of psychological safety as a subject, it's actually one of the biggest subjects in leadership. But we only know that because of our research and development. Building a AI model for psych safety is massive, because it requires hundreds of concepts, whereas you have other subjects which don't require that many concepts. Now, what you can see here is a concept pyramid. And you can see that this is somebody's concept pyramid, where the green equals master proficiency, where what are we calling master proficiency at a concept? We're calling not only do I understand that concept, but I've embedded it into my behavior as a leader, or my skill. I've embedded that skill. So it's becoming more of a, unconscious, if you like, competency. And then also what I've done is I can execute it. So it's all very well understanding a concept, getting it, oh, I get that now. And there is a lot of that going on. So if I go on a training course for site safety and it's fantastic, I may come out with understanding. What I may not understand is, how do I execute? And there is a huge gap between learning and execution. And the reason that's so apparent right now in the AI world is because fundamentally, I don't want to keep repeating this, but it is exponential change. The speed of change affects the need to be more practical in how we learn and how we implement that learning. So what do we do with that learning? And how that learning do we create new knowledge, innovation, etc.? So with the concept pyramid, first of all, yes, of course, like anything, even in machine learning, you need to know where you are. Because what this allows us to do is give everyone a unique map, and all our maps in any subject are going to be completely unique, like our fingerprint, because then what it can do is individualize the journey by, as well as going through a mind nudging, what we call mind nudging themes, which is effectively a program of transformational development that we're going to explain that bit to you in a minute. But as well as doing that, it's able to nano nudge you in concepts you just can't seem to get. And I use sorry, Kris.
I was going to say, Fee, what, for the benefit of our listeners, I mean, what is a nano nudge?
And we're going to explain the main theme nudging in a minute, which is really transformational development. But the nano nudge is different. What it's doing, it's assessing, the machine is finding out what you understand and what you believe and etc. And then it's able to, based on what you understand and what you don't understand, it's able to learn about your map. And then it's able to sort of send you a nano nudge. So a nano nudge could be a tiny audio, we call them audio vibes, not just because it sounds good, because it just vibe you up. And it's effectively, you click on a button and you might get 20 seconds of a reframe or something to anchor into your mind to help you understand that concept. So it's very iterative. It's super iterative. And of course, you need hundreds of them. For each concept, you may need quite a lot of nano nudges to get the concept. So I always liken it, I did last week, which I know it's a bit radical, but to like maths, where I'm not that great at sort of technical side of maths. I'm definitely not a mathematician. And if you talk to me about trigonometry and I just glaze over, I don't get that concept or any part of it. If you break that down, you could break it down to tiny concepts and eventually help me understand it. Now, I must say that would be a big gap on that one.
And this sounds a little bit different to me. So a lot of people might be familiar with, obviously, the concept of a learning management system where people pre-select content. So, but this is different, isn't it? This is more transformational versus informational, isn't it?
That's a good catch, because basically the fundamental difference is, one is information, so not necessarily experiential or immersive. So what you're doing is, I am an expert in psychological safety, and quite rightly, I can share that knowledge. Now, we're not saying that there's no room for that. That's not the point. Under that does get us the understanding, and it does get us good practice. What it doesn't secure is whether or not we execute that. In other words, what do we do between that learning and executing that learning to create to foster a psychologically safe team, workplace environment? That does not equal that. And also, how do we measure that? So I might ensure that you all have this great understanding, and then there is the old, I can't remember the name of, they call it, where you only retain so much learning, partially because that's information heavy.
It's something like, once we've gone on a workshop, I think the statistics are something around about 80% of that learning will be lost within the first couple of weeks after we go on that training. Obviously, if we embed in and we put that into practice, we will retain more. But on average,
let's not be
it's
unfair.
like that.
If you've got a workshop, and that workshop is, by the way, there's a massive difference between experiential, immersive, and interactive. I'm not talking about interactive, but you do some immersive activity, it's going to have a better effect than 80% because it's going to catch, help you embed it. So yeah, you're right in what you're saying. The general sort of term was 80%. Now, why does this come really important in site safety? Is because a lot of site safety is behavioural for the leader. Yes, it does take skill as well, and it does take understanding. So the knowledge is important. And again, we're not saying that all of this knowledge being taught is not good. It is good. It's not enough, because you've got to be able to bring it to the workplace and implement. And unless you can do that on a consistent basis, you can't create a safe culture. So when we're talking about one team doing okay and the next one not, then you've ruined the culture. How can you have an aligned culture? So culture is developed when we all are aligned to the same purpose, and the same understanding and the same almost alignment to get there. So what this shows you as this concept pyramid is that we all have a different map when we start out. So my psychological safety as a leader map may have more red and yours might have more green, but ultimately I've got to improve that and get to the green. So let me just move you on to the next one to help you understand what that looks like. Now, this is the perfect mastery. Do we get there? Slight exaggeration. There'd probably still be a bit of amber and red in places, but that's why it's called continuous learning.
But the key thing is that, by having the majority of those concepts in place, we're far more likely to be able to then start to embed those behaviors and that mindset across the organization, aren't we?
Yes. So you're going to get more alignment. Even if you, like at the moment, you might have misalignment to a massive % across the company, and probably have, and understandably why. But if, for example, you've got 10% of your leaders create psychologically safe teams and 90% don't, yeah, you're in trouble, without a shadow, because the 10% is just not enough. But if you could improve that 10% and get 50 or 60%, you swing that culture, no problem at all. So the overall culture feels safe, and that's what we've got to get to. And I'm making it sound really simplistic. Of course it isn't, because culture isn't. But what AI enables us to do in this way is break things down and measure it. So we can continuously strive towards that goal, even if we don't reach it in the 12 weeks journey. We can carry on with iterative approach to fill in this concept pyramids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and because it's individualized, it means that people are going to get what they need to fill in their gaps in understanding, unlike a traditional course where you go and of course there's going to be a certain level of expectation that we have specific learning outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And let's be honest, we don't unless you could climb into someone's head, you don't 100% know that you've measured that you've achieved all those outcomes. Only way you'll know really is by what they do.
Exactly.
What happens as a result, and also having, which we'll get into the system in a few minutes, but having a little bit of a gentle follow on and measurement and that accountability is also a key aspect of embedding any sort of behavior change in a culture, isn't it, V?
Yeah, 100%. So the how is, what you were mentioning at the beginning, Kris, is you need no argument, you need intervention. The question is what that intervention looks like. So how do you go from just purely information to information plus transformation, or transformational? With site safety, transformational is percentage-wise extremely important. So it has to be vastly more transformative than it does informative, because the understanding something is irrelevant unless we can execute on the site safety side. And that's why I'm saying it's a more complex subject than I think any other leadership subject. And yeah, the most important one. So walk us through this mind nudging journey, Kris, because this is your bag as well.
Well, so like any great journey, you need to have a clear destination, and with any good learning journey, it's really good to have it's essential to have a solid framework or foundation to really put things together, hang those concepts on. And so we start by looking at what is those framework? And we design that framework by, looking really at a lot of best practice frameworks out there. And of course, our own research and development as well to devise the best framework for that journey. And then when you break the framework down, as we said, these journeys may vary. They might be 12 weeks, they might be 6 weeks, and so for a 12-week journey, just as an example, each week would have themes, and each of those themes will have concepts, which will be the individual nudges that someone is participating in. And so how this looks in practice is that nudges would be delivered on, say, a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, and following a process of, firstly, Monday is about observation. If you think about any learning journey, we first need to raise somebody's awareness. We need to take them from unconscious incompetence, in other words, they don't know what they don't know, to unconscious competence, as in we're now aware of what we need to know. We need to be more aware of what we're looking out for. And then Wednesday is about reflection. Well, the learning of any sort, it actually does happen in the reflection. And by reflection, I mean once we've gone out, we've tried things, we've tested stuff out, and then we're having a think back on, well, what did that look like? How did that go? And of course, on an ongoing basis, on the Friday, we need to put things into action. We need to put things into practice. We need to have a little bit of gentle accountability. And we also need a way to measure that, how is that going? And that's where the system would come in to help aid that measurement. It's a means to individualize this journey. As we said, as people are going on this journey, there's obviously the key concepts for the journey they would go on, but as they go, the system will be looking at, well, what is it that we need to fill in the gaps? How do we make the leap really from where we are to where we want to be? And you'll notice there's something in there, there's pop-ups, and we're going to get into that to a later live, but those will also be specific learning events where people are brought together to really dig deep on some of the core concepts that we need to be embedding there. Because really, it's all about taking people on that learning journey. I mean, and Fee, in your experience, what happens to people as they go on this journey? What sort of impact have we seen? I mean, you might think, well, what is it about a mind nudge? So a mind nudge, just to really dig into that for a second, mind nudges are about, it's helping you to really dig deep into a core behavior, skill, concept so that you can build a new habit. It's about helping you to really shift a frame of mind over the course of that week. And you might think, well, what difference does it really make to shift a single frame of mind? Well, it's a quantum leap. It's huge. A little story, I was reading a recent article in Forbes about a CEO of I think it's the Good Young restaurant, these like KFC, Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, massive brand. And this man's mindset, or his paradigm, if you like, was that everyone wants to do great work. Everyone wants to do a great job. And that frame of mind has made a massive difference across that organization. He's been able to negotiate contracts, to turn businesses around, to get people to collaborate more effectively. And Fee, I know mind nudging itself is a slightly new concept, but the methodology behind the mind nudging is tried and tested. You were doing this for years before Mind Nudger AI came about. And what were some of the stories of some of the organizations that you worked in? What difference did it make for them to change a frame of mind?
I mean, I like this frame of mind idea, and I like the analogy you just used, because that helped us understand, well, why would one frame of mind make a difference? And of course, it's an iterative process besides anything else. So it's not one frame of mind. But if you think of this, like this whole approach, which is what we call experiential, observe, reflect, adapt, repeat, okay? And it's broken down to micro learning now, rather than bigger sessions, which is what I was doing before, to be fair, with Cafe Style, which was more experiential and immersive, but at the very beginning it tended to be in person, and also it tended to be I would say no longer ever than 3 hours, because it was exhausting. It's quite exhausting, experiential learning, because you put yourself into it and you're bringing your own self to it. So it's not like information when you could sit there all day But so we do say 3-hour sessions, 2-hour sessions, that sort of thing. But the thing is, we were still following observe, reflect, adapt, repeat. It was individual games or activities that put people in and allow, in a learner-centered way, allow them to bring their knowledge and complexities to it and ideas, right? So that, and the results were incredible, powerful outcomes for each session that we ever did. What was missing out of that is the ability to measure that, okay, and also sustain that. So the two things that was missing, it was definitely accelerated learning, so tick for the speed. What it was missing was scale and sustainability, because of course, without a digital intervention, you have to keep on doing it. And that, of course, is not that sustainable. Because then how do you get the alignment if you've got 1,000 people in your company or whatever? So I don't know whether I've gone off in a tangent here, but just suffice to say, with them going back to the mind nudging journey with what we're talking about, the mind nudging themes are cognitive reframing people step by step based on the subject. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'll see it follows a framework like any program, but this is then broken down. So you've got, say, 3 themes for inclusion, insight, safety, etc. You get the point. One of the things that is really supportive with the mind nudging journey is that it has, as well as the AI support, it has human facilitation on the go. So it's got human feeding back, constant feedback loop of learning and mind nudging, nudge, nudge, nudge on the go, because it's in the system. But also you can see something here that says pop, pop, pop. That's pop-up LearningScapes. So there's quick, never more than 60 minutes, pop-up sessions where that is bringing the cohort together so that you can, one, I don't want to say this word, but should I, have fun, to engage in learning a concept together and create new knowledge together. So there's many, many different reasons to why that's blended, that journey. So whilst the mind nudging, sorry, just making this one quick point, because whilst the mind nudging does the introspection work, which is very important as you're going about your day, it's internal work, the pop-ups bring you together to do that social work, which is equally as important.
And I'm sorry not to cut in, but just briefly, I mean, and we know there's quite a lot of research out there in terms of gamification and people having fun. And actually there's, you know, when we are engaged in something that is fun and interesting, we are far more receptive and open to that learning. And actually by having a positive, socially shared experience of learning, we are more likely to embed and put that learning into practice, aren't we?
Neuroscience of play. Massively important. And with Stuart Brown, the professor who is, I'd say, the world leading, obviously world leading in the neuroscience of play, who was I think neuroscientist specializing in it, who's done enormous work. And he said the opposite to play is not work, like we thought through the Industrial Revolution. It is depression. So as humans, we need to play all our lives through, not just as young.
Yeah, gosh.
Beings. So yes, it's extremely important, not just for learning at all, but also for our well-being, our social skills, and so much more, so much more. We could have a whole session on that. It's almost my favorite subject.
Let's just do that.
And this brings us back to experiential learning, which is not always playful, but it's always immersive. And it really brings us back to the importance of whatever we do and whatever intervention we do. When we want to change mindset or behavior, it almost must be experiential, whilst you need some context and understanding about subject matter. So I'm just going to show you the last slide so we can see the comparison, because I like this slide. Look.
Oh yeah, that's very powerful, isn't it?
This is wishful, the whole green without any red whatsoever. But that's the goal. The goal is to move from current proficiency, wherever you are. And a lot of people may have their current proficiency as nearly all green anyway. You know, there are leaders out there who are like that, 100%.
I mean, you're aiming to really get to conscious competence or unconscious competence ultimately.
Yeah, and some people are strong at one thing and not the other. They might not be that great at fostering psych safety. They might be amazing at creative thinking or creativity and innovation. So, you know, it's all about, there's no wrong or right here, but it's all about learning what we need to learn to be an effective leader to create the right environment.
Amazing.
And, you know,
oh gosh, this has been really good. I hope our listeners have really taken away some thoughts here, some real insights on how we actually approach this topic around psychological safety. And Fee, what are we going to be what are we going to be sharing with our listeners next week then?
We've come to the time. We are actually going to dig deeper as the agreement into understanding the methodology of how we design the mind nudging and the pop-ups, the actual methodology, the EPIC methodology. We want to dig down into that and then help you understand how that helps us with nano nudging and the concept pyramid. How does that connection, how is that made? Because I think once we understand these things, we can then understand a comparison to how we should learn, how AI can help us learn. So I think the AI needs more work, but I want to compare it, I want to connect it into the methodology of learning. And that's what I think we should do next week. And things like Aura as well.
Amazing.
Understand that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Excellent. Well, that's it for me, Kris Thorne and Fee Hills, and we'll see you next week.
I look forward to it. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for hosting this, Kris.
As always, Fee.
Thank you very much for anyone who's listening, either live or on the recording. Now, what I will say is DM Kris or myself, that's Fee Hills or Kris Thorne, for any more information, or go to our website, mindnudger.com. I was going to say mindnudger AI, but it's mindnudger.com. Lovely. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, then.
Thank you very much. Bye.